Good evening and welcome to the Committee of the Whole meeting for June 8th, 2022, and we're beginning at 6:01. And I'll call the meeting to make it officially called to order. And that brings us to item number 2, the confirmation of the agenda. Are there any emergent items from any of the councillors for tonight's meeting? Deputy Mayor Montgomery.
Well, that's really loud. So I'll move the agenda with the addition of 7.1 for, I think that's in camera. Yeah, so that's CAO dialogue in section 24.1A.
Thank you very much. Anything from administration other than that? No? Then I'll call the question. All in favor of the amended, or the motion to amend the agenda? Yeah, okay, good. You guys were already ready way before me. Whew. That brings us to our delegations, and I have an idea how this might go tonight. We have 3.1. Our delegation tonight is Communities in Bloom. And Mr. Peary, are you the spokesperson or someone else coming up as well?
Does he have pictures? Because I don't want to listen.
Well, I did ask him if he had a PowerPoint, and he has no puppets tonight either. Okay. Well, good evening and welcome. Come on up to the microphone, and you can adjust the volume as well as the height of the podium. No, I wasn't trying to say anything. I swear I was not trying to say that.
I didn't used to call him his worship. Those were the good old days. Well, good evening. And I think most, and I hope all of you of Town Council have heard of Communities in Bloom. We are a volunteer and partnership-driven organization that tries to foster community strength, involvement, and continuous improvement. This is accomplished by nurturing environmental sustainability, enhancement of green spaces, and heritage conservation in cultural and natural environments encompassing municipal, residential, commercial, and institutional spaces. Our committee is very proud of what Communities in Bloom and the town of Strathmore have accomplished since we were first formed in 2005. We have long been supported by the town, not only through funding, but also in a close working relationship with council and town staff. I may have to chat to the men about the funding. It appears they're missing again. But anyways, in 2018, provincial judges from Communities in Bloom awarded Strathmore 5 blooms, the highest we have ever achieved. And although we did not win, we felt that 5 blooms out of 5 blooms was a significant accomplishment. We had planned to welcome the judges back to Strathmore in the summer of 2020, but we all know what happened to that plan. I, along with my delegation, there they are, back there, are here to inform council tonight that the provincial judges will be back in Strathmore this summer on August the 4th. I believe all of you have been given the evaluation, program guide, and to-do list for this upcoming event. We've already started to prepare for this event, and so has the town staff. Scott Garnett, the town's marketing coordinator, has already started the community profile book, and we know it will be the best in the province because Scott is doing it. Dina Cunnington, your park supervisor, and her crew are already at work making Strathmore look exceptional, as it all does every summer. The town of Strathmore will be evaluated in 6 areas, community appearance, environmental action, heritage conservation, tree management, landscape, and plant and floral displays. Within this evaluation areas, they look not only at the town-owned areas, but also at businesses and institutions, and of course, residential areas as well. Community involvement is fundamental in all areas and is evaluated. Obviously, our committee will be working closely with the town staff to ensure judges have all the information they need. We'll also be reaching out to the Chamber of Commerce and the business community to encourage them to put their best effort into this evaluation. We hope that council members will encourage the business community to support this endeavor. Our committee is looking forward to escorting the judges around Strathmore, as we believe we have a lot to brag about. In 2018, the judges were impressed with our downtown, and it was only half done. Our pathway system is very extensive, and thanks to the town's partnership with Western Irrigation District, our pathway system is something to brag about. Our commitment to the environment is evident by our recycle yard, our composting, our solar panels on this building, on the field house, and of course the new solar farm. Our new town hall with the numerous trees, the First Nation healing garden, the farmers market are all something to show off. Last year, nearly 350 trees were planted in Strathmore on public lands, and Town Council passed a tree bylaw a few years back, all indicators of Strathmore's commitment to its urban forest. Our wetlands are considered to be part of our natural heritage, and we believe our partnership with Ducks Unlimited and the signs that we put there in that area will impress the judges. Community involvement is always something Strathmore residents have long done. Whether it's planting trees, the annual cleanup in the spring, or volunteering at the Strathmore Stampede, residents of Strathmore have a long history of being involved in our community. Our committee provided the funds to pay for the irrigation system at Station Gardens, and with watering, the Station Gardens will highlight not only our history, but our outstanding floral displays. The new garden boxes at the Strathmore Station Gardens is a nod to our history, but also proof of Strathmore's desire to enhance local food production, as all these boxes are used for education about food growing by agencies such as Trellis, the library, Growing Families, and Golden Hills Storefront School. Our 16 garden boxes found behind the Covenant Church are also evident of that commitment. We know the Parks Department and the operations under the direction of Donna McCallum will have our parks looking outstanding. As you can tell from my comments, our committee believes the town of Strathmore will impress the judges when they are here. So what does Judging Day look like? Well, it begins here, with members of council hopefully welcome the judges to Strathmore and providing a coffee and maybe a muffin. We'd like to have our park supervisor and operation manager here to answer questions the judges may have. Our plan is to then walk around the outside of the new office, hopefully with the town's Indigenous liaison, explaining the significance of the healing garden and the memorial. We would then begin our walking, driving tour around Strathmore. Last time, council provided us with a van driven by Councillor Peterson, and I would argue Denise not only provided a safe and comfortable drive, I know that's shocking, but her ability to answer the questions of the judges and elaborate on the information, I'm convinced enhanced the number of points we received. Our committee is putting together an itinerary for the walk drive, and we'd be anxious to have council's input in the areas where we should take them. For example, we will be going to the solar farm, and it would be great to have someone from the town to meet us there to provide details about the site. Our day will conclude with an evening banquet, which will be at the Legion for obvious reasons. We are hopeful again that council can attend. Last time, the judges spent a great deal of time at the banquet asking questions of council members about the information I would know nothing about. Once again, I am convinced that Q&A helped bring Strathmore numerous points. To summarize, we are appearing in front of you tonight to announce to yourselves and the community that Strathmore is about to be judged on August 4th. We are encouraging residents and the business community to join in our endeavor in making Strathmore look as great as it can. This can be done by picking up garbage, trimming the grass, and pulling a few weeds. We know that the town staff will be doing everything they can to enhance the appearance of the town, but will take everyone in the community to doing their part. We're also here to encourage yourselves to join us on Evaluation Day because we believe council made the difference last time. You can be involved by meeting the judges in the morning, joining us in the drive around town, and coming to our evening banquet. Now, I'm willing to take questions. I've got my supporters to help me. But before I do, I should mention a couple things about the funds which I alluded to, and they've not arrived because you guys have been a little bit busy this last year, and the things might have been lost in the shuffle. Second, our funds are all here. Just in case we all drop at the same time, the funds remain in the town. And third, I want to give a shout out to Len Mueller, who has been in finance, who's been just doing an exceptional job of keeping us organized, and math was never my forte, as Mr. Fuel will tell you, so it's good that he's watching. So I'm to turn this off if there's questions.
Well, thank you very much for your presentation, and it's your group that has been a huge part of the greening up and attractiveness of the town. I also look to Deputy Mayor Montgomery and the TD Tree Grant that did the the trees along the paved pathway in Center Street. We have a new pathway this year in the Strathmore Lake Crescent area near Council Wagoner. We have a new sidewalk along Westridge Drive, so that Westridge Road, sorry, so that our walkability is improved. I think your group has worked tirelessly to plant trees, and even the fruit trees on Centennial, I think, are an amazing idea. So thank you for everything your group is doing, and councillors, I'll go to Councillor Wagoner first.
Thanks for the presentation, Rob. Again, I'm impressed with the work that your committee has been doing in that. And I know if you go to different communities around Alberta, you'll see the communities in bloom, but I also believe I've seen them in other provinces. Now, when you say we got 5 blooms last time we were entered, which was good, but you said we didn't win. Are we competing, is it locally, provincially, or nationally that Strathmore would be competing?
We are competing provincially, and then if you win, so we got 5 blooms, but we weren't the winner, so then if they win, like Brooks down the road, then you can compete nationally, but you have to win first at the provincial level.
Thank you, Councillor Wagoner. Councillor Peterson?
Thank you, Your Worship. So I was reading the presentation with interest. I was sad there weren't more pictures. But anyway, I was thinking about what else we could do together to enhance what we already have. And one of the things that's natural, I think, about this is the support that the Strathmore Overnight Shelter got from Communities in Bloom through the Scots Grow for Good. And they have the greenhouse that they put out of town for the sake of safety, which is run by residents and volunteers to the shelter, has been extraordinarily successful. And then on the site, they have several grow boxes there that right on the site by the shelter, and it is adding enormously to the sustainability of the food programs at the shelter that have been increased incrementally and continue to. So I think that would be, looking at marginalized populations and what you talked about in terms of food production, really, really key. And the other one that I was thinking about was the joint project between the Golden Hill School Division and the town, and with regards to the playground at George Freeman School. And even if we didn't have it done, if we came up with a plan, a future plan, we've talked about it before, about doing a gardening project with that, and certainly COVID put that on hold, but that's definitely something we could do. One of the other things that we could think about is, in terms of the beautification, is doing artistic depictions of our local plants on the panels of the town office. And I know that's a little bit more detailed, but not hard, not difficult. And the other thing that the Wheatland Lodge has been, I don't know how far they've come, but they've been lobbying Tom Sadler to do seniors tours of the wetlands. And so I'm not sure where that is at this point, but I know that last month they were making plans to lobby him to use his remarkable knowledge to do tours of the wetlands. And one of the other things that I thought about is that we've had lots of discussions around this table about bees and beekeeping, and we have some beekeepers in our local community. And one of the things that our outlying towns have talked about is partnering on wetlands tourism and making the whole bee project part of that in terms of an ICF or an IDP, so an agreement between the small towns and the town of Strathmore. And of course, we would like it much more if our large bee populations were on our periphery, and yet it would still contribute hugely. And I don't know if Communities in Bloom have ideas about encouraging or teaching us about how to grow plants that will attract honeybees, but it would be extremely useful. The other thing that I learned in reading your stuff today, or last week, was that there is a workshop put on by Communities in Bloom by the retired mayor of Leduc. and that this council, unlike any other council, has been engaging in workshops for our own edification. And I was thinking that if we engaged in that, that might also be something that would be conducive to what you're undertaking in terms of judging. That if this council engaged a workshop, I really was impressed with what I saw online with what they're doing for Communities in Bloom and how they're talking about council roles with regards to supporting that could be really useful. And those were the sum total of my ideas in terms of how we could maybe look to support you this year or in future years. But I really appreciate what you're doing. It's really exciting. And you will eventually win, there's no question. I'm looking forward to the day.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. Deputy Mayor Montgomery.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to recognize you, Rob, for all your hard work in the community and as well your fellow Communities in Bloom members. A lot of what you guys do is near and dear to my heart, and so I just wanted to say thank you, and I appreciate it very much.
Thank you again for your presentation, and I'm wondering to our CAO, as we get closer to that August 4th, is it something for our radar to look again at a possible town cleanup like we did earlier in the spring, and maybe mobilize or get some volunteers to mobilize maybe a week or so before the group comes here? If we could maybe keep that on our radar, I'd be willing to get involved with that. I know Deputy Mayor would too.
Yeah, we'll take that away, look at it as an event maybe the week before or something like that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you again, Rob, and thank you to your committee for all the work you do. It's I know you and I have chatted informally lots about how far this town has come regarding trees, and the parks and pathways have really, really grown, and I think they were invaluable during the COVID time when people were alone a lot. It gave people a chance to get out and get walking. So thank you to your group for everything you've done. And that brings us to item 4.1, Committee of the Whole meeting minutes for May 11th, 2022. Deputy Mayor Montgomery.
Thank you. I will move the May 11th Committee of the Whole minutes as presented.
Thank you for that. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? And the motion is carried. And that brings us to business 5.1, 2023 budget timeline. And Kara, you're presenting on this. Welcome. Good evening.
Thank you. So good evening, Your Worship and members of Council. I'm pleased to be before you this evening to present the proposed 2023 budget timeline. Administration is committed to supporting Council with developing and implementing a robust budgeting process. The proposed process before you has been developed based on the collective municipal experience in the organization. The key decision points that will involve Council are the initial mandate conversation, the community group funding request evening, the budget deliberations, and the overall approval. Administration is recommending that Council have a user group night to allow requests to be brought forward in advance of the budgeting process so that this reduces the number of one-off requests to Council throughout the year. The remaining steps outlined are administrative in nature and have been shared for information. If Council is happy with the proposed timeline, Administration will arrange for the timeline to be brought forward to the June 15th meeting for adoption and then subsequently rolled out to the organization. And I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Kara. I am very much appreciative of the report, and I was really, really interested and love to see the visual representation so you can see when everything is going to happen. I'm a very visual person, so that really helped me. But I'm looking forward to this new approach with different people, new ideas as we go into the 2023 budget. Any comments from councillors? Deputy Mayor Montgomery?
Thank you. I'll just echo the same thing. I'm looking forward to it, and I appreciate all that you guys are doing right now. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments from our council? Good work, and we look forward to hearing more as we go through. Thank you. And that brings us to 5.2, Responsible Animal Control, Amending Bylaw number 22-20. Good evening, Claudette, and welcome.
Good evening, Your Worship and Councillors. I'm here tonight to see about your approval of attaching a penalty schedule to, I guess, amend the bylaw to attach a penalty schedule, as there's no penalties currently associated with the responsible animal control bylaw. There's been currently some issues that we're having in town, and we're kind of exhausted. We have nothing. We can educate, but when it comes to enforcement, we don't have a leg to stand on. So I'm here tonight to seek your approval or questions.
Thank you. Do we have some questions from councillors? I was, again, really happy with the report. I think we definitely need to have some teeth in the bylaw, and so that we can, once we do educate, and our bylaw officers are really good as far as trying to bring people up to speed as what they can and can't do. But there does come a time when you need to have something in your back pocket, and I think this is time. I know I've walked around the community quite a bit, and I know there are a lot of off-leash dogs along the canal inside the town boundaries, and you do worry with the latest event that happened in Calgary that we do have to make sure our residents are protected and that animals are under control, and we're ready for something if it does turn badly for us. So appreciate all the work on this, and I think it's a great idea when it'll be coming to us at a coming date to approve.
Yes, I'll work with our team to discuss.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Peterson.
No, actually.
Oh, Councillor Wiley, sorry, you're right.
Oh, no worries. No, I think it's great too, as if that event in Calgary just came at the right time to sort of give us impetus. So I just wanted to look at the definition of vicious animal. I know this is the existing bylaw, but if there's going to be those kinds of fees attached to it, I wanted to just take a look. It's on page 65. So a vicious animal is any animal which has, without provocation, chased a person. I just wondered if we could put an additional word in there. So where did it go earlier? Here it is. In a different place, you define aggressive manner. Yeah, there it is. On page 61B, or 2.1B, you define aggressive manner. I wonder if it could just say chased in an aggressive manner.
Or aggressively chased.
Aggressive, because you've already defined aggressive manner. So it wouldn't, because I don't think any of us think of
I had the same one.
a stupid golden retriever running up behind you as
A lab.
yeah, more likely a lab. Sorry for lab fans out there, but they are kind of like that. So chased, yeah, that would be the only addition, just because it's such extreme penalties, obviously, if you have a vicious animal.
Through your
Thank
worship,
you.
Councillor
Sorry.
Wiley. I do agree. I forgot to mention, this bylaw will have to be revamped or revisited, and a lot of work put into it to kind of update it. But right now, it's just the penalties to attach, but I can make that amendment. Currently, right now, we have a dog behaviorist that we speak to and work with to define what vicious even means. Is this dog, are you able to work with, because that'd be our last resort to deem a dog vicious, but it's at what level of the bite. There's different grades of the bite scale, and if the dog can be worked with before being deemed vicious. So I will revisit the bylaw, and we can go more into depth what defines vicious.
So those details will be an attachment, or an appendix that is on a later bylaw amendment, is what you're saying?
That's correct. Right now, the bylaw just doesn't have any penalties or fees or fines associated to anything pertaining to the bylaw.
So if we were to open it up and start adding in even single words like that, then it complicates things, is what you're saying?
We can definitely look at amending that definition, but I just don't want council to get too hung up on the bylaw itself, because it does need some rework on it.
Yeah, the only reason I picked that one is because we're adding such steep penalties for vicious animal. I wanted to make sure the vicious animal one was at least more of a working definition.
Thank you, Councillor Wiley. Councillor Peterson. Oh, sorry, Mark.
Yes, Your Worship and Council, just to reiterate what Claudette is mentioning, the concern that we have here is we really want to get the penalties in there. And we think that this bylaw needs more emphasis or more detailed work on it, and recognizing the comments from Councillor Wiley. We're hoping that we can get the penalties in there now and gives us some further time to examine and thoroughly review the bylaw to come back. But we'll definitely make note of that change for Councillor Wiley when we bring it forward at a future date.
Thank you, Mark. Councillor Peterson?
Thank you. So I had the similar comment to Councillor Wiley, but the other question I had was, I completely agree that bylaw needs this to be able to do their work effectively. But can you explain the relationship between how our bylaw would apply penalty and how penalties work when it goes outside of our bylaw? So when people wind up in court, for instance. So I know that in past terms, when we've dealt with this bylaw, that's always been a question that I haven't been able to answer. So people will say, you know, if I'm cited, or someone is cited, for instance, for animal abuse, and under our bylaw, it's a $350 fine, or a $700, or our proposed bylaw, or a $700 for a second offense. But that can also bring charges under other legislation. Is that correct? Can you speak to that a little bit?
That is correct. I'll have to do a little bit more research to speak more thoroughly on it. I would be prepared to speak to it at a later date. However, we do reach out to Animal Services and the Humane Society, and they would do their own investigation as well. And it does go to court. Even our bylaws currently, if they're not paid, they go under a different, and some are automatic court appearance and some aren't. These bylaws would not be an automatic court appearance.
Sorry, I have a follow-up. Thank you. So just a quick one. The dog's not wearing a license, so this is consistent with me. I should have paid hundreds of dollars by now because my dog is always losing her tag. And so tags can be replaced here, right, for a minor cost.
I'll have to check with our administration team, but I'm pretty sure if you've paid your fine, or sorry, if you've paid your license, you can just come back and get a replacement tag.
I think that there is a cost. I think it's minor, but I think, you know, just for people to know that when it comes back, I think there is a minor cost to it. I think I've paid it a few times, but it's good for people to know. Or when they have a dog like mine, to buy extra at the beginning. But thank you. Thank you for this.
I'll look into that, and if there is an extra charge, we'll have to also attach it to our fees and fines schedule and the fees and fine bylaw.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. Councillor Langmaid, followed by Councillor Wegener.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Claudette, if I could, I just want to make sure that I understand kind of the timeline that we're working with here. Tonight, we're just having a look at the fee kind of schedule that you've proposed so that it can be included in a future version of the animal control bylaw that we'll be seeing in the future. So this won't come into effect right away. This will be, you know, this won't come into effect after this meeting. This will be down the road when we see a new bylaw. Is that correct? Or a revised bylaw, I guess I should say.
Mark?
Through the chair, Councillor Langmaid, it's our intention to get the fees and penalties associated immediately, so hopefully next week with council's support. And then at a future date, complete, I wouldn't say complete, but an updated and revised bylaw in its entirety with updated penalties and fees associated with that. The urgency, as council has addressed, and the immediacy of it, and the urgency is, that's why it's kind of getting expedited, the fees part.
Perfect, thank you very much. I just wanted to make sure I was clear on the timeline. I was actually quite surprised to find this. I didn't realize that we didn't have fees associated to this. I was quite surprised by that, so I think it's a good idea. The other, I have no concerns with what you're bringing forward, but I do have a follow-up question, and that's regarding the dog licensing and cat licensing process. Do we have any plans on making that a bit more user-friendly in terms of, you know, easier to access, maybe registering your animals online? rather than having to come to town office, because that's something that I think would increase the compliance of pet owners around town, increase convenience, and just generally make it a little bit easier for people to stay on the right side of the rules.
Yes, through your worship, Councillor Langmaid. Currently, they can actually call in, residents can call in and just pay for it over the phone and have their license mailed out as well. That's something I guess we'll have to mention to the team if they're moving online with a new program or not.
So currently no plans to, nothing's in the works to get it online, it's just a call in.
If I can maybe add a little bit. So as you probably remember, we are looking to defer, like revising the website to next year. But part of that is actually looking at some of those services as well to try and put as much online to make it as customer focused as possible and easy for our residents to do things like have more of a self-serve approach.
Perfect, thank you very much. I know that that would be helpful for me when I think of it at 9 p.m. on my couch and then forget it at 7 a.m. the next morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Langmaid, Councillor Wegener, then Councillor Mitzner.
Good evening, Claudette. When you were talking, I was actually hoping you were going to say this bylaw will give us more teeth, but I think you were, did somebody say it over there? Okay, I couldn't hear, so. I think I've pretty much answered my own question. Just most of these on the second half of it all refer to vicious animals, and so 7.9, failure to tattoo or microchip. So any animal deemed a vicious animal is required to be tattooed or chipped?
Through your worship, Councillor Wagner, that would be correct. That way, when a dog is found, we know exactly who that owner is. Like, when it's in our pound, then it leaves our officers at risk as well. And it's just easier to identify the owner right away. There was one that was actually, it was a stray, now a stray, once was owned, went to a vet, and was not microchipped, tattooed, and they had to give it a little bit of medicine to kind of tame it down a bit so the clinic could actually work with this animal. And now it's in Humane Society, but we don't know who the owner is, and there's no responsibility there.
Okay, and just one other thing. You were talking about the vicious animals. You say you're working with an animal psychologist, so no? Did I miss that?
Dog behaviorist.
Dog behavior psychologist. Anyways, thank you.
Self-esteem problems.
Self-esteem problems, yeah. Anyways, along with their information and the degree of the, I guess, attack, and that's what's going to deem this animal as a vicious animal.
That's correct. Currently, we're working with a dog behaviorist in town with one, I guess, case where it's been an adult and a child, and we just hope that there's not a third incident that's in this exact same location and deeper.
Okay, so I would imagine there's some fairly defined points that would define or determine an animal to be a vicious animal.
That's correct. And once an animal is also deemed vicious, it also puts the control, or I guess the responsibility, back on the owner to make sure that that dog is always muzzled when in public.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wegener. Councillor Mitzner.
I just have a couple of housekeeping items as a new councillor. For animal control, do we have one bylaw officer specific, or do all bylaw officers do the task?
Any officer can enforce a bylaw.
Okay, and for the pound, like where is it? Do we share it with the County of Wheatland? Is there a fee when you pick your dog up?
That's a great question, through your worship, Councillor Mitzner. The pound is located beside the Old Town Hall.
Okay.
And we don't house any animals for county. We share the pound with Happy Cat as an overflow space. When they have animals in the pound, they also check on them and take the responsibility. It doesn't take away from our hours of work. When it comes to dogs, it's very limited. I guess it's very few cases with dogs, but we work with them. And do we charge an impound fee if they come right away? Not necessarily. If they're not licensed, we just ask that they come get them licensed.
So if you have a dog that's not licensed and it's not retrieved for 3 or 4 days, it's not like a car, you don't have to pay to get it out?
After 3-4 days, yes, we would require an impound fee, and that impound fee currently is $50, but we don't have a penalty section.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mitzner. Deputy Mayor Mark.
Yes, Your Worship and Council. It should be noted that we're working, anytime we have an impounded animal, especially dogs, we work well with communications to post that information online. And more often than not, as Claudia indicated, through the vast network of social media at its finest, the owners are able to be found quickly. And so there's limited instances where dogs are kept for multiple days and things like that.
Thank you, Mark. Deputy Mayor Montgomery.
Thank you. So I just have one question. And so it's to do with the like vicious dogs and like transferring them or you know, gifting them, or if they die, and then like the person has to notify the town. I'm just wondering, like, you know, I understand, so like if with like, you know, gun registration, you know, if the police go to a certain house, they know that there's a gun there, you know, so they can kind of, you know, prepare, I guess. What is the, I guess, the logic behind the town needing to be notified, for instance, if the dog passes away? Can you explain that?
We definitely put it on their file underneath their residence, because anytime you knock on a house, whether it be ourselves or the RCMP or any agency, it's nice to be alerted that there is a potential vicious dog on site, where you can ask them to have the dog in a different room if you need to speak to them, rather than the dog getting out, and that just opens it up to the public, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that was just all I was wondering. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Montgomery. Councillor Langmaid.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you. I'm sorry, I came up with a follow-up question. That is, with the implementation of these new fines, say a dog is picked up for roaming, doesn't have a license, all of that makes its way to the pound, it gets picked up that day. Will the owner be required to pay that fine immediately for the return of the animal?
Through your worship, Councillor Langmaid, do you mean for prior to them picking up the animal, coming to the town hall to pay for it?
Sure, and coming to the town hall or paying it when they pick up the dog. I'm just, is there, there will be a process in place to make sure that the fine is paid before they pick up the animal, is that correct?
On most cases, that is correct. But we do like to educate first. I mean, if it's picked up in like 10 minutes and it accidentally got out because there was a contractor on site, like it's not, we don't just hand them a ticket as soon as we keep a dog. I'll give you a perfect example. On Friday, 2 dogs went and picked 2 dogs up, took them to the pound, didn't even get a chance to take it to our communications team. The members came in to town hall very, very upset. They would have been faced with over $500 in fees. I just asked that they come nicely to town hall and pay. Unfortunately, they didn't, and there was no fee collected. But that was also been noted. If it does happen again, it'd be just asked that they license their dog. And that's what we're dealing with. We educate, but we can't enforce anything.
Understood, and I appreciate that your team really does prioritize education and enforcement. I just wanted to make sure that there was a process in place, or will be a process in place, where if someone does have an animal go missing, or they have a fine, and they do earn a fine, not just education, that there's a mechanism in place that we can ensure that they get it. So that was my only question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Langmaid. I don't think there are any other questions or comments. Thank you for your presentation, and I think I speak on behalf of council. I think it's good that we're moving forward with some fines and things coming towards us. Thank you. Deputy Mayor Montgomery.
Councillor Langmaid was saying, sorry, so if somebody, like, let's say, you know, racks up $500 somehow, like their dog does something, so we're not saying, like, we wouldn't hold the dog ransom until they pay, like, or would we? Like, let's say they couldn't come up with the money right away, but we want them to pay that $500. Are we going to keep the dog until they pay the $500, or we just, okay, that's what I wasn't too sure.
So through your worship, Councillor Montgomery, what we would do then is just actually give them the bylaw tag, and they can come and pay it. And once they pay their fine, we can either reduce it or work with them. Unfortunately, it was kind of not really a slap in the face, but they didn't come and register their pets when you give them that much of a break. But without this, we couldn't have really written a violation tag anyways.
Okay, all right, I was just confused there for a second, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And thank you, Claudette, for your presentation and being able to answer those questions.
Thank you.
And that brings us to question and answer period. Are there any questions and answers, if there are questions? Councillor Peterson.
It's not a question, Your Worship, but I did want to make mention of the fact that we're very appreciative of the fact that the town of Rockyford seconded our resolution to AUMA, and our gratitude to the staff who worked so hard to put the motion in place. And I also just wanted to make people aware that the Drumheller Mail interviewed the Mayor of Rockyford. It was a very positive interview that was posted and regarding that. So really grateful for our staff and for the support of all of our surrounding communities to bring that to fruition. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Montgomery.
Thank you. And yeah, I guess thanks to Rockyford. Sorry, I just want to, okay. On June 23rd at 9 in the morning, the mayor and I and any other councillors that would like to join us will be hosting a coffee. So that's at 9 in the morning on June 23rd, which is a Thursday. So anybody in the community is welcome to come. It'll be in the council chambers. One of us, either the mayor or me, will be supplying coffee and donuts. And we'll be here to answer questions and discuss any sort of community issues with people. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Montgomery. I'm looking forward to that. Maybe a little afraid, but I'll be okay. Councillor Mitzner.
Is this where I can ask that or inform that the Marigold Library sale collapsed and it is still available? And it's something I would like to pursue as a councillor. Thank you. Or a council. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. At this point, I'm looking
Your
for...
Worship, I don't know if the Marigold rep wants to make the announcement of the new CAO for Marigold.
I would, if I may, Your Worship. So over the past few months, past couple of months after we received the notification that Michelle Toombs, the wonderful Michelle Toombs, would be retiring, Marigold board and executives underwent a process to identify a new CEO. And I'm very excited to announce that Lynn Price has been chosen as the new CEO of Marigold. She has extensive experience. She joined Marigold in 2010 and has been the director of service delivery since 2016. She also held a pivotal role in the management and execution of maybe she didn't execute it herself, but she definitely played a very important project management role in the planning and development of the new Marigold and WID joint venture building, and I'm very excited to welcome her to the position of CEO for the Marigold Library System.
Thank you very much for that report. And at this time, if there are no other questions or comments, I'm looking for a motion to go in camera. Deputy Mayor Montgomery.
I will move we go in camera under section 24(1)A.
Thank you. We have a motion to go in camera at 6:44. All in favor?